students. We're going to go ahead and get started today. Good morning. Good morning. Um, all right. So just a couple announcements, of course, to get things started and get this out of the way. I'll also remind you guys at the end of class. But of course, next week, Friday, is going to be the Friday after Thanksgiving. So we won't have class, right? So after today, there's only two Fridays left of the term. So only two more science classes after this class. So we're going to learn some new information this week, some new information in 2 weeks, and then we're kind of going to try to review and then talk about what we've experienced over this last um, term. Okay. Uh, Today, the goal is going to be to talk about what's a big term, but it's really not that big of an idea, is traditional ecological knowledge. It sounds like a lot, but it really isn't that deep. But this idea of traditional ecological knowledge is what people who have been here or been around for generations have passed on to new generations, and basically how they interact with the ecology, right, or the world around them. Okay. So that's traditional ecological knowledge. And if we start thinking about traditional knowledge, right, we have to think about the fact that a lot of us grew up with the idea of whatever was told to us by our parents or grandparents is the truth, right? Like we just have to live with it, we deal with it, and we know that a lot of it is very true. We still use a lot of those things today. So I wanted us to just kind of start off today thinking about what are some things that you learned from your parents or grandparents that you know are true today because of that, right? Like you didn't have to do any scientific study or research, right? But these are the things that you were told and you still use these things today. For instance, for me, it's all about the garlic, right? Whenever I'm getting sick, it's all about that garlic tea, the garlic in the socks, and different things to try to suck the bacteria or virus or whatever it is out of your body, right? That was always a thing that my grandmother would have us use, and also other different and varying things. But that was one of the things that always stuck with me, right? Was this idea of using, sorry, garlic. All right. Anybody else have things that they've learned from their parents or grandparents? I see some things in the chat.
So I'm just coming in, so I don't know what is going on.
No, it's okay.
But I understand that we're looking at the things that we can help in curing, like natural.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much, right? Like, what are the natural remedies? What are the things that your parents or grandparents told you that you know to still be true today? And so I see in the chat that Miriam put in white rum and coffee for the flu. Interesting. I've never heard of that.
Black coffee, Mr. G. I
And
forgot the
black
black.
coffee.
Yes, what you
Okay.
do is draw the black coffee. That's
Uh-huh.
the graded one, not the refined.
Okay.
And you pour the white rum in it, no
Mm-hmm.
sugar nor nothing. When you drink that, you gotta clothe yourself, like
Mm-hmm.
sweaters, socks, and everything, and then you'll
Yeah.
cover with a thick blanket. When you awake in the morning, your clothes will be all wet. You sweat
Yeah.
out everything.
Oh,
It's
that's
like pulling the toxic of the flu from your body. That definitely works.
okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. I am I am not a coffee drinker. I do not enjoy coffee.
I'm not a coffee drinker either because of my migraine.
Yeah. But I will definitely remember that so that when I get sick, I'll have to do that. I always have white rum in the house because I use it for a lot of things.
That's a Jamaica number one remedy. We
Absolutely. That's what,
don't go to the doctor in Jamaica for flu. That's
yeah.
why I don't believe in flu shots. And I'm saying the same thing to my aunt you raised with your mom. Why would you do flu shots?
It's true, right? It's true. It's a lot of things that we just grow up just not doing because we rely on other things. Yeah, it's very true. Yeah.
And for the cursinile with the green banana, what we do
Mhm.
is scrape the green banana, but the
Mhm.
cursinile have to be from a lamp that is burning.
Oh, okay.
You can't just pour it from the bottle like that. It
Right.
has to be in a lamp that we are always using to burn.
Okay.
Or if not, you warm the kerosene oil,
Hmm.
like you put it in something and just put a bit of heat to
Yeah.
warm it. And then you you mix it with the green banana. And
Mhm.
you know, usually back in the Caribbean, we don't normally wear shoes or slippers
Hmm.
in the yard. We normally run around barefooted.
Yeah.
So nails you at times kids' nails will juke them or whatever, and then you just place it to their foot and tie it on, and that will take out everything.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, that's good. I like that. I like that. That's good. Wow. All right. And then I see in the chat that Jeffrey wrote onions in your sock. Yeah, the same idea with the garlic, right? The onions and the garlic are supposed they're family, right? So the idea is that they're supposed to pull the toxins out through your feet, especially because your feet have a lot of surface area. So it's easier there, and that's why they say to put it in your sock.
And the same onion can use in the room to Mr. G, like in your bedroom, the four corners.
Mm-hmm.
And it draws out the toxic also.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know about that one. Putting it in the four corners of the bedroom. Interesting. Yeah. One thing that my mom would always put in our house and in the room sometime as well was you take the peel from the orange, like you have to take it off all at once, right? So you peel off the entire orange with a knife or something, and it has to all be connected, and then you can hang that in your room or in the house, and it's supposed to bring you good luck. So my mom would do that, like she would take the orange peel off all at once. I was never able to do this. She has some supernatural skills.
That is good to do.
Yeah,
I think I'll try that.
Yeah.
I need
Are
some
you
good
saying
luck.
you don't know how to peel the orange?
I actually saved the orange peels, Mr. G. I actually have some in my kitchen now, but I wasn't thinking of that. What I do is what we do in Jamaica is peel it, put it to dry, and then use it to boil for tea.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, so what I was saying, Deontay, is I can't get it off all at once. My mom is able to take a knife and just like at once take off all the peel of the orange.
It is, you're right. That is a supernatural skill.
I think
I know what you're saying. That is supernatural.
I think I can do that too.
Yeah.
Because you're peeling the orange to the skin, you need to peel the orange to the orange actually, and not to the skin.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we have a lot of remedies, household remedies that we use for for malaria and typhoid. But
really?
Some has to do with plants. And there's this easier way for malaria. We put you boil lime, lemongrass, and Lipton tea together, and then they drink. Then for typhoid, there is another remedy for typhoid. There is the leaves, you wouldn't know it, they are tropical.
Right.
And then another thing you can repel snakes with something they call kola nut.
Interesting.
And then you can still repel mosquitoes with burning, kind of burning certain kind of leaves, or with flames you can repel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And there's so many remedy, so many
things. So many things. Absolutely.
Leave a life for coal, Mr. G.
The coal?
Leaf of life. There's a plant. Its name is leaf for life. You eat a leaf for 9 mornings for coal.
Interesting. See, all of these things. Yeah.
Percy's also like Percy's here said they do detox.
Yeah.
When we're doing detox in Jamaica, we use cerasee.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Even us, even when we do like detox, there are certain leaves you can just mix up. I don't know their names, but I know them. You can mix them, and then some of them, there is one that you can cook with something we call pepper soup. It's just a seed, and you put like few seeds and you cook pepper soup with it, and then you drink it. I think you are going to sleep by the toilet, because like in Nigeria, it's not everybody that has toilet in their home in my hometown. So normally our toilets are made in the water, because I'm from a riverine. And our toilets are built, a little house built in the water with like 6 rooms. There's the one for men, there's one for guys. And then, so if you are going to take that to detox, you need to sleep in the toilet, because by the time by the time you leave home, I think something else will happen. So you have to sleep around the toilet to be able to detox, but you have like different types,
Okay, you could keep that. You can keep that one. It's okay. I'll try another detox. But
Okay.
on a whole, though, the Cersei is really good because even like persons who have itches on the skin, it also helps. But a lot of persons don't like it because it's bitter.
Yeah.
So you know, persons don't like it because it's bitter.
Yeah, I actually don't like bitter medicines as well.
I have it without sugar.
But bitter leaf too. You know what they call bitter leaf?
Yes.
But I've heard of it.
Oh, bitter leaf is very good for the body. It lowers blood sugar.
Yep.
It helps a lot. It still can. I think it can still help detox, and it is good for people with diabetes.
Hello, what is the name of this?
Bitter leaf.
Bitter leaf.
But you can.
Where did you get it from?
Normally you get it in African shop, but you can get it. You can get the fresh one because they do is to freeze. Because I
need to buy me a first class ticket to Africa.
Red Apple actually sell a lot of herbal stuff.
Yeah, Red Apple.
Yeah. Yes, but you can find it because like yesterday we make soup with it as well. The bitter leaf we make soup with it. But all we have here is just the frozen ones.
The frozen one, yeah. So sometimes
it's not going to be effective.
Yeah. Sometimes you can find it at Ethiopian markets because Ethiopian markets have a lot of African things as well. If you go to the Ethiopian market and you ask them if they have certain herbs, you can try to find it there.
I think they got one on Eastern market, Ethiopian market?
I think so. I think they do. Yeah, I think they have.
Okay, I'm gonna check.
No, if you're going for the bitter leaf you can't get it because it's when it's dry, it's already loose. Or it's good when it's fresh.
Right.
And then there's another thing they call scent leaf. We use it for pepper soup too. And that scent leaf it's like what do you call? It's like have you seen curry leaf?
No, I know that.
Oh, okay. Because we use curry leaf for our stew. It's like basil. It smells very well.
Okay.
But this scent leaf is another one. When you have a cough.
Yeah.
Or it's scent leaf can go for so many things. It can detox. It can if you have a cough. In those days, my mom would just say because we have the scent leaves around our backyards, so we pluck it and then put salt in it. Especially the young ones, the ones that are the soft leaves. We'll pluck it and put some salt in it and then chew it. It helps calm the cough.
Yeah. So
there's like so many in Africa that we do heal ourselves with.
Absolutely. Yeah. The same. It's a very similar experience in the Caribbean, right? Growing up, we always, if we were sick or whatever, but every day, the idea would be that you wake up and you make tea. And how we make tea is that we go outside, right? And we grab the leaves of whatever plant it is. We tie it, and we throw it into the pot, right, to boil so that you get the tea, right? Most of the time, it's lemongrass tea. We always had lemongrass tea every morning, right? But whatever tea it was, we called it bush grass. It was always called.
Grass still same as lemongrass, or it's two different?
Which one?
Fever grass.
Fever grass. Fever grass is the same. Yeah, it's the same as lemon.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. We too call it lemongrass.
Yeah. It's the one that it's a long leaf. And it smells like lemon.
Smells lemon. And then there's this other one. And when even like me, I do ginger tea here.
Mm-hmm.
I just peel off the ginger, cut them.
Yeah.
And then
boil them. I grate my ginger blend.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can grate it. You can grate it as well. So
what I do when I go to the supermarket, like even now, I could actually show you guys. I just buy them, wash them, and then I blend them and pour it into a bottle, so it makes it easier for me because my husband does most ginger tea. That's what I had this morning. So I just take it, boil the water, put it to draw, and I'm with a cup of tea real quick. So I don't go for the ginger tea bags.
Right.
Oh, no, I don't actually go for ginger tea bags.
I got a question, guys.
Okay.
Are you guys confident in taking the science part of the GED test yet?
They say it's the easiest GED test.
Okay, because that's why we're not spending time learning science right now.
I didn't get that.
He's so sarcastic.
I didn't hear what he said.
Wow, that was roundabout. That was roundabout. Okay.
That was unnecessary.
I did not hear what he said.
I get it. I get your point.
That was just completely unnecessary. Who was that?
Deontay, I'm trying to learn, brother.
We all is. I mean, come on, man. Jesus Christ.
No, so I mean,
what is the topic about?
Right. So the whole, this is the whole point though, right? Is that what we're going to learn today is about the idea that we have to pass knowledge on from one generation to the next.
To another, yes.
Right. So that's why we were talking about this. I'm sorry that it was a little long. It was longer than I had planned for, but it was a good discussion. I'm glad that people had all these things.
I learned something from it.
Yeah. So here's the thing, like what happens is that we right now in science rely only on modern technology when we're trying to solve crises, right? However, people have been around for generations and they've been surviving and dealing with these things all the time. So then how have they been able to do that when we're the ones who are now increasing this impact on our environment so much more and causing so much more damage, right? So I think what the point is that we need to look at some of what they've been doing to be able to live in the same places for thousands and thousands of years without damaging the world, right? So how do we take some of that knowledge and apply it to what we're doing today as well? So that's the whole idea, right? We have to pass down this knowledge from generation to generation, use that knowledge to help us do what we're doing with the climate, with how we affect the climate change, right?
Yes, Mr. G, like for example, growing up, I would normally see older people having cancer, but now it doesn't have an age to it.
Yes, that's a very good point. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Cancer is definitely now something that's so much more prevalent. Our world is changing, right? And as our world changes, we see that disease and other things that used to be localized, that used to be for older people, quote unquote, we see it expanding because of how our world is changing and how our food, our diet, everything is changing, right? So we need to learn from what people have been doing in the past to survive, right? How we can take some of their knowledge and apply it to today. All right, so what we're gonna see is that I'm gonna pull up the week 10 folder in your course, right? Science 3. Week 10 is about traditional ecological knowledge. And this is what this idea and this plan is. When you guys get a chance, you can respond to the first discussion post about how your grandmother would deal with the climate crisis, right? This is just a kind of an idea to kind of get you started in thinking about what it means for people who are older than us or previous generations, how they might have dealt with the things that are the world that's changing, right? There's no right or wrong answer there. It's just about thinking about that idea. What we're going to work on together right now, though, is the second discussion post, which I've labeled as practice number 1, where we're exploring the idea of traditional knowledge. Okay. And when I say traditional knowledge, right, I'm talking about the people who have existed, especially in this country, right? The people who have existed way before the settlers and everything else happened, the people who have been here or are native to this land, they have a lot more knowledge about the land because they have an oral tradition, right, of passing down their knowledge from generation to generation. They tell their stories. And so this is how their children learn how to take care of the land around them, right? And so we're going to explore and learn a little bit more about what it means to have that idea of traditional knowledge and why that might be important. Okay.
And you said you want us to answer the discussion question right here. How would your grandmother deal with the climate crisis?
Yeah, you can do that after. You can do that after class, but I would like you to do that. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're going to look at the second one. We're going to watch this video together and then answer these questions here about this other discussion question, right? So we're going to see what we can learn about how they learned how to harvest. Okay. So we're going to watch a video about them harvesting in the land where they're from, and we're going to answer these two questions, these very quick questions about how they learned how to harvest and why. Okay, so it's like a 4-minute video. It's going to go by pretty quickly, and we'll just be able to answer those two questions. I'm going to pull it up here on the screen. About 7 minutes.
This is the area where the first bit of harvest happens for some of the people at home. Still got a couple hours before low water, so this little area here should dry off a little bit more and we should be able to get down inside the tide line to have a look for some seafood there. Might get lucky, think all of the kids that grew up in the coastal communities hear from their parents and grandparents is that when the tide is out, the table is set, meaning, you know, once the tide recedes and the shoreline is exposed, there's opportunity to get out and harvest clams, you know, chitons, mussels, our seaweeds, you know, abalone if you're lucky enough, sea scallops. There's so many different little creatures out there that you can harvest and have a good meal from. My oldest great uncle, he owned a little mosquito vessel, so as young as I can remember, like to be old enough to hold a knife, and whenever he went out anywhere, he took me along with him and showed me the areas and where I needed to go to harvest and what times, and that's where it started. Some chitons. In the Haida language you call it So you use the juices to season your seaweed, but as well what I like to do with them is I clean them when I get home, and then I'll pickle them and we eat them as a snack. Some people use them in different dishes as well. The harvesting is what I base my timing around a lot of the year. So a lot of it works around the seasons of the year, the different moons, the different tides. That all affects what we're harvesting and the time of year we're harvesting it. The newer moons and the full moons are the bigger tides, so those are the times to get out onto the beaches and try to harvest what you can. So I just found this purple urchin in this tide pool here. I just caught him eating the same thing I just been harvesting this morning. So, some chitons. Based on the upbringing that we all have, right, that everything is interconnected to each other and we have to understand the balance. We all learn that growing up. So, you know, if you happen to go to an area and you see it's, you know, been harvested quite frequently, you try to move to a different area, or otherwise we're going to deplete the stock that's in the area. And it all depends on what you're harvesting, right? For me, it's a lot easier to get a little further away from town. The stuff that's closer to town is more accessible, so a lot more people get out to harvest. Traditional knowledge is knowledge that's been passed on through the generations, so from our ancestors on to our grandparents to our own parents, our aunts and uncles, and now my generation is, you know, we're passing on to our children and on to our nieces and nephews, and that's, you know, what I consider to be our traditional knowledge. I truly take pride in preserving our foods and sharing it with my friends and neighbors and, you know, other family members. And I try to pass that on to my kids and let them know as young people that's kind of the role is to get out and to harvest and share it with the elders and make sure that, you know, people in your family have an opportunity to have a taste of what we have around us. It's a little young, but still good. Typically in the prime harvest time you get nice long strands of it, but right here you see some of it here is quite long actually, but it's just starting. So this stuff is the first batch of the season. It's the closest to town, so it's the majority of the members of the community won't venture very far west. Most guys are running in just little skiffs, so this is the area that they'll start harvesting in the next couple of weeks. The marine clans have identified specific areas that are frequent harvesting areas for ourselves, that are set aside with certain protections that only allow uses for haidas to get in there and harvest specific species. So that's going to be key for our future generations to have the opportunity to get out and harvest what's there. set aside for us. Right in behind the village there, that's where the kids will be going tomorrow to harvest.
Where'd you guys go on the boat? Did you guys go all the way to Kista?
No, we just went over to just past Jan.
Oh, nice.
Right, just the point just before that sandy beach there. Yeah, we just went to go and grab some mussels and chitons and check on the seaweed.
How was the seaweed?
Most of it's about that long still. I managed to get about a bundle about that big of some nice long stuff. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, probably next weekend I think it should be ready over there.
God, humongous! Look at that!
Traditional knowledge was a huge component to the Haida Gwaii Marine Plan process. When we first engaged in this back in the mid-2000s, community consultation happened through door-to-door visits. Individuals were identified that were frequent harvesters of all species, and we did a lot of one-on-one interviews with a lot of the older Haidas, middle-aged Haidas and young Haidas that were experienced in harvesting, that identified the key areas for ourselves to set aside for our own uses.
I got it! I got it open, Miss Penny. Look. Well done!
So that played a big role, and then once the community consultation process ended, we developed a work group that provided input into the technical planning piece to help us develop a solid plan.
All right.
They really love the earth.
So what did we learn from this video? Anybody want to share out a little bit about what they noticed? Any questions they might have?
Season and the tides affect the times to harvest.
Yep. Okay. And what kind of things were they harvesting?
Clams.
Yep, they were doing clams, different kinds of clams.
Seaweed.
Seaweed.
And seaweed.
Yep. And they were doing the chitons as well, chitons and mussels as well.
Mhm.
Yep. All right. And how did he learn how to harvest?
From his
From his grandparents.
Yeah. So his great uncle and his parents, and they would take him out, right? And as you can see, they're taking the kids out now so that they can learn how to harvest as well, right? So they're all learning how to live off of this land. But you also notice something else. I don't know, maybe you guys may or may not have noticed this, but there also isn't this mad rush to take all of the resources at once, right? He's like, oh, I'm gonna wait for it to get longer, right? When he was talking about the seaweed, it's like, oh, there's gonna be more later, right? This is the beginning of the season. And there's this process of kind of waiting until it's ready to kind of take it out, right? And I feel like we don't have a lot of that, right? We don't have a lot of waiting. We're like, we want it now kind of thing. So I really appreciated that, right? I was like, oh my, like you guys are actually gonna wait for it to get long enough. You're like, you're not just gonna take what you see now. So it's really interesting, right? I think that when you're thinking about what people have been doing for generations to survive in the same area for as many years as they've been living in that area, it means making sacrifices, right? And being like, oh, I just have to wait until there's enough, right? And I have to wait till there's enough for everybody, and we can all benefit from it. I'm not going to just take it all for me. So I really appreciate it.
It wasn't a case where they was reaping for themselves. It was a community thing.
Right. Yeah. And I thought that was really powerful, right? As we think about the fact that we're losing land to climate change, we're losing our temperatures and our seasons are changing, and what we're able to grow is changing, right? We have to think about these people, right? They've been in that same place for 35 generations. Could you imagine 35 generations, right? having 35 great grandparents in the exact same location. They, they know what they're doing. They know how to get things done, right? And we also all have to recognize, especially in this country, the United States, that everybody who's living here, right, is living on borrowed land, right? Borrowed or stolen land, right, from the native people. And so there's another link here so that you can learn about kind of like the different areas in the world of the country that have been and what tribes used to live here, right? Like in DC specifically, like the tribes who used to live here are the Piscataway and the Anacostan people. That's how we get the river name Anacostia, right? Is from those native people who used to live on this land who have been displaced or removed, right? But they have a lot of knowledge about how to make sure that our ecology continues to function the way that it was supposed to function, because they depended on it, right? They depended on this river, the Anacostia, they depended on the Potomac, right? And so as it gets damaged and they lose the ability to rely on it, they would know the best ways to kind of make sure it gets clean so that it can be reused again, right? So that's why we need this idea of traditional knowledge working with technology to get us to a better place, all right? So hopefully you guys will see that kind of by you doing that exploration. All right. Back into the week 10 folder. We are going to do some reading here about traditional knowledge. No, we are not actually. We are not going to do that. I apologize. I'm switching it up. I am instead going to open up these PDFs. We're going to do that instead. We're just going to go straight to the PDFs.
Mr. G.
Yes, ma'am.
What of the are they not here anymore, the Anacostia people?
So they exist as people, but in very small tribes. Like they're very small collections of people who can trace their family back to the Anacostan people. And they don't traditionally live in DC anymore. They've now been like moved out to more rural areas of Maryland and Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because of like, displacement into.
Yeah, that would be very annoying.
Yeah, because the people
I don't know how.
Yeah, they wanted to own the land. They wanted to own all of it, and they were like, no, we can't have people on it, so they moved them out. Yeah, it's very systematic. Okay, so I'm gonna first, before you guys have to answer any questions about it, just tell me what you notice about this image that's up on the screen here. What do you notice about it?
It's like the time and season where, like, I saw fish early spring, salmon and sea. It's like the time, the seasons where you can find certain products.
Yeah, so there's definitely seasons and timing, right? That's on the outside, and then on the
seasonal chart.
It's the what?
Seasonal chart.
It's a seasonal chart. Okay, and what do you mean by that?
Okay, you see what you can reap in winter.
Good. Okay.
Spring, summer, fall.
Right. All right. Good. So what we're looking at, right, is the first example of this exactly what Miriam called it, a seasonal chart or a seasonal round, and it just explains what is possible when, right? Like when are you going to get the best things and when? And this is kind of how they live, and they center their lives around what they're able to harvest and when, right? And I think what's powerful about something like this and kind of looking at this is just thinking about our daily life, right? Let's say that you wanted to have a certain dish tomorrow. More than likely, you can just go to the grocery store and buy the ingredients for that dish and make it, right? Assuming you have the money or there's no other limitations, right? But to live in a system that they are currently living in, right? The idea is that you can only have certain fish or certain birds or certain other things depending on the season of the year. You're like, it's not going to be available, right? And they're living very much about how the land is producing those things, right? The way that we kind of interact with the earth right now is that I want it when I want it, and I don't want to have to wait for it. So if I'm looking for salmon, I want my salmon tomorrow. I'm not going to be like, oh, what, I got to wait till April, because that's when the freshest salmon is going to be available, right? And so that's kind of one thing I think about when I see something like this. And then we have this other one here, right? So this is another example of the same idea. What's different about this one?
Like having less compared to the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this one is like
is
mixed with pictures.
Ah, right.
It's a storage chart, Mr. G.
I'm sorry?
Is this telling you how to store the stuff that you would have?
No, it's the same chart, right? But this is actually an example of the more traditional version of what they have, right? This is what they're working with. This is like the modern day version, right? Is right here. But this is the more traditional version of what they're working with. You notice the language that is not English, right? That's where the text is written. They use more pictures than they use words, right? Because they want people to understand it even if they can't read it, right? So, and then they put the English in kind of like as, more and more people begin to understand and use English, the English kind of replaces the native language. But this is like the more traditional version of what they've always been using, right? And then this is the more modern day experience, right? So that everybody can kind of understand what's going on, right? Okay. So what kind of food are they depending on in this society? So it's the same society we watched the video on earlier, but what kind of food? What kind of
stuff from water.
Right. It's an ocean community, right? They're definitely depending on things that come out of the ocean or things that depend on the ocean itself, right? Even like these birds over here on the left, the geese, the seals, whatever, the hunting ducks, these are got to be birds that also travel to the ocean or near the ocean because they're like on rivers or something. And they have so many other things where it's just selfish. Go ahead.
I'm saying, do they eat seals?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, seals are on the list. Yeah, seals are on the list. I actually just read an article about the first Thanksgiving. And at the first Thanksgiving, they did not eat turkey, right? They ate deer, they ate lobster, and they ate seal. So there was no turkey at the first Thanksgiving. I'm not sure how turkey became a thing, but there was no turkey at the first Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
Turkey's only in America, Mr. G.
Yes, it is an American bird. They actually they tried to make it the national bird once, but it did not work. They did not want to make it.
Mr. G,
what's the national bird?
Like
the bald eagle.
It's too ugly.
To get an eagle is not an easy job.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what did you say, Miriam?
I said in Jamaica we'd be saying that it's too ugly.
It's too ugly. Yeah, it is a very ugly bird. It's true. Okay. Yes, so this is our idea of traditional ecological knowledge, right? Ecological means the study of the earth and the world around you. We need this to be in balance with what we do to mitigate and interact with climate change. So if we're thinking about how this community that depends on the ocean, how would they be impacted by a changing climate? In what ways would a changing climate impact them?
They'll probably have food.
Sorry, one at a time.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Miriam, and then Jennifer.
I'm saying they probably would have less food.
Why?
Because if you have less rain.
Okay.
Such as because of the cutting down of trees or replanting of trees and so forth, you'll have less rain. So less rain will give you less seafood or stuff like that.
Okay, so maybe the tide won't rise as high, so they
as
won't
high
have,
as it should, right? So
okay.
the manufacturing of stuff wouldn't be as it was before.
Okay, that's a good idea. Jennifer?
Okay, I was still, I wanted to still talk about the starvation.
Yeah.
It will be like, for example, if the sea is affected, maybe it's polluted,
Yeah,
and so, these things will die, they
yeah,
won't grow. And so because that's their source of living, so there will be starvation because there won't be fish, there won't be clams.
right. So as their food leaves, then they won't be able to survive. Right. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Right, the start. So they even wrote it in here about when starvation risk is higher, right? It's going to be in this month, in February, when things are not as plentiful, right? Things aren't growing as much in February as they are in the other months. So this is, you have to save up for February, right? Just in case things happen. But of course, that time, that window might be increased if the weather changes. Okay, good. Any other ideas?
My phone decided to update the system update all this fucking time in the middle of me trying to text. So I was writing left a lot of cough stuff.
I think you need to mute that person, Mr. G.
Just give me a text right.
I think it was, okay.
Yeah. She took forever to do a system update.
Okay, yep. All right. What were you saying, Miriam?
It's okay.
So if you look at November, for instance, right? It says November is when you're supposed to have the first snowfall, right? As our climate changes, it not only gets warmer, right? But our weather becomes less predictable. So if you can't predict that in November, you're going to have the first snowfall and maybe the snow starts falling earlier, right? That means you're going to have less time to do the things that you're supposed to do. It says by the first snowfall, you're supposed to be smoking and drying your meat for storage, right? But you're not going to have that option if the snowfall comes too early, right? You're going to have all this meat and ready things sitting out that you're like not prepared for because of the changing in the weather, right? You also might not be able to hunt the same animals because they're not going to be around for as long if it gets colder quicker, right? So those are some of the other things we have to think about as well. Not just like rain patterns, which is true, that's going to affect things, but also as our weather changes, it is going to change how the animals move and migrate around the world. They're not going to hang out where it's cold. They don't want to be there, right? So they need to, it'll affect what they're able to do as far as keeping their food around. Right? So that's another thing to kind of think about. Right. Okay. All right, and then my last comment and question about this would be, do you think it would be possible for us who live in this very modern world, right? Because we're not living in the more basic earth connected world that these people are currently living in. Do you think it would be possible for us to live like this, right? To live in this seasonal idea of when we can have food and when we can't have it?
Once we make up our mind to it, we could adjust.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think it'd be very difficult.
If we have to, Mr. G, if we don't have a choice, we would.
Okay.
But some people will be frustrated.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. All right. So for me, that was all the things I wanted to introduce you all to today. Okay. So we have worked on practices 1 and 3. So you guys do not need to go in and do that on your own. But what I would like you to do is go in to answer the first discussion question: how would your grandmother deal with the climate crisis? And then also do practice 2. Practice 2 is just reading about the definitions of traditional ecological knowledge. All right, just so you have a more strict word-based definition. All right. Those are the only 2 things you guys need to work on. It's actually pretty easy and straightforward. You have, until Monday to do it if you need to do it until then. So take your time with it and get it done when you can. And like I said, there are only 2 more science classes left, only 1 more with new information. Remember that next week, Friday, is the Friday after Thanksgiving. So you guys are not going to have class on that Friday. Okay. Are there any questions for me?
And the practice
sir.
3, sorry. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Practice 3.
Practice 3, we just did it. Yeah, that was the one where
1 and 3 you said.
where we compared those images.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we'll just do, oh, okay.
Yeah, so just practice 2 and the discussion question.
Okay.
All right. All right, so you guys are off early.
Mr. G, I don't know how my grandmother would deal with it.
Well, just think about how any of your ancestors would deal with it. Do you think that they would be capable and figure out a solution, or do you think they just kind of throw their hands up?
There will be. Life teaches.
Yeah, exactly.
So it might be difficult, but they will try. You know, life is all about experience.
Yeah.
Experimentation.
Would deal with it. When we didn't have meat, my grandmother used to curry the chocho.
Exactly, right? There are things that
you smell it and think that's meat cooking when you get your dinner, it's curried chocho with food.
There are things that people have done for generations that we, would be like, what? Why would you do that? But when times get tough, they figured it out, right? I think that, we can be just as resilient as people today, but sometimes we don't try to be as resilient. We think that this is the first time anybody has ever experienced this, but it's not, right? People have gone through worse in the past, and we can learn from them.
Yes, because like I asked my grandmother how they used to store meat.
Right.
Because back in her days with her mom, they didn't have refrigerators.
Yeah.
And she said back then the earth was cool.
Yeah.
So they used to dig the earth at a certain feet.
Mm-hmm.
They would pad it with banana leaves.
And
they'd put the meat in there.
Yeah.
And they'll pack it over again with leaves and cover it with like old zinc or whatever. And that would keep for a couple of days because the earth was cool.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But now you couldn't do that because you're actually walking and feeling the heat from the earth coming up to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And when they couldn't store their meat anywhere cold, they would salt it, right, to preserve.
Right.
Yeah.
And then like fish, they would put it over the fire.
Mm-hmm. And smoke it.
And it quails and get dry, and then they use it whenever they're ready to use it.
Exactly. You can smoke fish. Yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do when you don't have refrigeration. Absolutely.
Yeah, they didn't have oven, so they would bake the dumplings in the fire coal.
Mm-hmm.
Just like baking the pudding, but now we're using oven. But then back then they would use fire coal at the bottom, fire coal at the top, with the pudding in the middle.
Yep.
But now we have oven.
Yep. Yeah. My family definitely used to, where we're from, the earth is too rocky to dig holes to cure anything. So you'd have to salt everything, right? And,
yes.
Yeah.
That was a lot of ways to. And when you think of it, Mr. G, because my grandmother used to raise pigs,
mm-hmm.
so she would kill them, salt it, and have it for months.
Yeah.
That I have to send to the store to purchase. So it would be like, eat what you grow.
Yes.
Grow what you eat.
Yes. That's exactly it, right? That's kind of the philosophy. That's what I'm trying to get us to come to that point again, is that, if we're trying to really try to rescue the earth, we have to be very conscious about what we're eating. So, be conscious about your purchases if you continue to use the grocery store. Also think about what you can grow at home. If you have the space, grow some things and eat what you grow, because that's what we need to try to start coming to, because we can't keep relying on shipping things all over the world to get your food, right? Which is what we're doing now.
And has a lot of processed stuff in it, preservatives to keep
preservatives, all of those things, yeah. And then we're burning up all of that jet fuel to fly things from all the far reaches of the earth to get to other places as well. Yeah.
But then, Mr. G, we're not having lands like before. Because
yes.
Even when I look at the adjoining houses, where's the land for you to really do?
That's
the houses are taking over the lands.
That's absolutely true.
To really do any farming.
Yep, it's very true. Yeah, so that's why there's this push now, especially in places like DC, in these larger cities where there are community gardens, right, where you're allowed to get a plot of land in your near your community or near your home where you can use to grow your own things. Yeah, so that's what the movement is now, to make sure that people do have land and also have that connection to land and how to grow things. I feel like children today don't know how to grow anything, right? Because they never had to. So it's about giving them that knowledge as well, because we have a whole generation of people that don't know how to grow anything on their own, right? So it's important to get
not
that.
only grow, Mr. G, it's actually doing stuff for themselves also.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. We have to get back to that. We have to get back to our earth, right? We can't forget it. We need it, you know? So you have to remember that it's there and how to take care of it. We have to help it so that it helps us.
Yeah.
We're from the Caribbean, Mr. G, where we're used to going out to get the stick to make the fire. We're not used to just going in the kitchen to turn on the stove.
No.
We got to go get the egg from the nest.
Yep.
For breakfast. We got to milk the cow to get the milk for the tea or the porridge.
Yeah, we know what it's like to not have electricity for days on end, to go to use the coal pot outside to heat something up. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Put the iron in the coal to eat, to iron your clothes.
Yep. All of those things.
Mop the floor, polish the floor, go again and shine it. They just used to just wiping now or vacuum. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah. The good thing is that I know how to do all of this.
Because of where you're from.
Yeah, and I'm teaching, and that's why I'm teaching my kids. And then even this little one, he has to get used to those things, because we can't rely on a modern technology all the time.
You have to know how to live without, right? Because at some point you never know what can happen in your life where you might have to live without.
But even so, Mr. G, this whole pandemic thing too, it also was a lesson too, because where you could actually go out and get things when they had the shutdown, persons has to be home, being in the kitchen, learning how to prepare. So a lot of persons were doing videos or going to YouTube to see how to prepare this and prepare that, because they couldn't go out and get it as they used to.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, all the people who had to rush and shop right before the shutdown too, all of those things. You know, I get phone calls from my mom being like, you already have all your stuff, right? I'm like, of course, you raised me. You raised me to always.
Right, because we used to having it.
Right. I'm like, I already know what I'm supposed to have. And yes, I already have it. You know, so it's about that. It's about having that training, right? To know what you need and what you're going to need in times of crisis. So, yeah. So that's why I think that you definitely have an answer for that discussion post, right? How would your grandmother deal with the climate crisis?
Mr. G, I was just pulling.
Oh.
I'm from the rural area. I'm a country girl, Mr. G. I climb tree. I cut the yard with the cutlass. Yeah, not the wicker nor the lawnmower.
Right.